Hello again everyone. Well, because my Super Soco here is virtually brand new, I want to be able to keep up with the warranty on it. So that means taking it and having it serviced and having a dealer stamp the service book for me. Well, the first service interval is 500 miles and we've already passed that, only just, but we have passed 500 miles just commuting to work. Now, the Super Soco website does show one dealer in Cambridge, so I've rung them to arrange the first service. Now, they were, it has to be said, a little bit less than enthusiastic. They didn't readily say they were a Super Soco dealer, and when I questioned them further on it, they said that they certainly used to sell the bikes, but they'd stopped dealing with Super Soco because of some difficulties they've had, and they did warn that they may not be able to get hold of parts. Now, I don't think they really need any parts to do this first service. It's really basic stuff like checking the tyres and checking the torque settings on the nuts, checking the brakes, that sort of thing. And we're really unlikely to need things like new brake pads yet, so I'm not expecting any parts to be needed, but that may be a concern as we go forward. I have found a few places that appear to sell parts online, so it may not be as grim as all that, but it would be a bit more reassuring if what's listed as our local dealer actually did appear to act as a local dealer. There's also the issue of range, of course. Now, I'm just about okay, I think, getting into Cambridge. We're going to drop it off today. Today's Saturday, and they don't service bikes on Saturday, but I can then pick it up during the week. And I'm hoping that I can ride it back to work and recharge it, although I do notice that the recharge is part of the service, so I'm not sure if I'm going to have to leave my charger with them, but we'll find out that when we get there. If of course they weren't able to service the bike, and we don't know about the next service, which I think is about 3,000 miles, then we'll have an issue, because how will we get an electric bike with limited range to a dealer further away? I think there's one in Dis, but that's well out of the range of the bike, so we'd be down to either perhaps having to borrow a trailer or maybe stuff it back in the motorhome, but that wasn't the ideal way of transporting it really, or perhaps hire a van. Anyhow, let's take it in and see how things develop. Oh, we dropped the bike off okay. They did say they would charge up the battery. I was down to about 35% by the time I got there. It's probably about 20 miles away from home. So the bike is with them now. They'll service it on Monday, and then we'll have to work out how to get it back, and we'll let you know what resulted from the service. Righto, well, this hasn't quite worked out as intended really. I checked with them when I dropped it off on Saturday whether they'd charge it for me, and they said yes. I took the charger with me in case they said they couldn't and I needed to leave them a charger to charge it up. But unfortunately that seems to be a bit of a misunderstanding, and they didn't have a charger despite them being a dealer. And item 1 on the service schedule is to charge up the battery. Anyway, never mind. I have now taken the charger up to them. It's 20 past 3 in the afternoon. They close at 5:30, so I'm not entirely sure how much charge it's going to get into it. The plan was today that I've driven the Ttxela into work. Nikki's got an appointment in town this evening, and she was going to come and collect me from work, and then I was going to ride the bike home. She's got an appointment in town again tomorrow, so she was going to drive me into work where I'd left the Ttxela, and then I'd bring the Ttxela home, and we'd have everything back at home by Tuesday night, ready for me to go to work on the bike again. So that was our plan. Now we'll try and stick to that. Nikki's going to pick me up from work around about 4:30 and then drop me back off at the motorbike shop on her way to her appointment. Hopefully the bike would have charged sufficiently for me to then ride it home. If not, I guess I'll be heading back to work to top up the charge on it, because work is probably about half the distance of driving home. I could of course drive it on the reduced settings, but that's not a particularly pleasurable experience, pottering along at 15 mile an hour on a motorbike. You get some odd looks and some very frustrated people behind you. I did ask the fella as well about the situation with them being a dealer. Apparently they had one bike in the shop that sat in there for 2 years, they said, without selling, so they don't really bother having them in stock anymore. Not entirely sure why that is. You would have thought it would be a reasonably good thing to whiz around Cambridge on. I don't know really. It's quite surprising to hear that they're not that popular in town. Anyhow, he did say they would still be able to get hold of the parts. The previous fella said he had some doubts about getting hold of parts. He said it may not be easy, but they would get hold of them. So whether that's just him expressing some positive determination, or whether that's a realistic assessment of the parts supply, I'm not sure. But we'll find out, I guess, when we have to do a larger service on it. Oh well, we'll pick the bike up with Nikki later on. It only had 37% charge, which give me 17 miles range in number 2 setting, which would have maybe just about got me home by the skin of me teeth. It's about 16 miles back to the house. But what I did, I came with Nikki to her appointment and waited with her and charged the battery up in the waiting room, and I've now got 44% and 22 mile range, so hopefully that will get me home. Well, that's it, chaps. I've been using a combination of number 2 setting, which said it gave me about 20 miles, and number 1 setting, and unfortunately you can see I've got down to 7% battery and 4 mile range, and she just pretty much slowed down and stopped. I'm guessing that's to protect the battery, but I guess I'm pushing the rest of the way. Fortunately, it's only a mile or so now back to the house, so I'll see you there. Whew, well, we're home. In actual fact, I was able to ride it the rest of the way home. It did start up again after I'd pulled into that drive there, but I've just snuck home with 3 miles range and 5% battery on the number 1 setting. I do recommend you don't take these batteries regularly below 20%, which I hope means that occasionally you can. Anyway, I'm going to get this battery in the house and on charge without too much delay. Well, there we go. That was really my first experience of a little bit of range anxiety there, and we really only just made it home. Anyway, the key thing is that there were no problems identified in the service of the bike. It just sailed through as I expected it to, really. Cost me about 50 quid, which is a little bit annoying because there wasn't anything that I couldn't have checked myself, but I needed really that stamp in the service book for the warranty. The motorbike shop were very helpful though. I was quite pleased with their service. They were very good really, and very obliging. There was a bit of a misunderstanding with the charger, but there's a lesson learned there to drop off the charger with the bike so you can actually get it home again. A few other things I learned. One is that you definitely can't rely on the number of miles left it says it'll go. I mean, they were pretty ideal conditions. They're flat roads around here. There was no high winds or anything like that, but the miles definitely passed quicker on the readout than they were actually passing on the ground. I'm quite pleased I didn't try and get back with 37% charge and the 17-mile range it said, because I definitely wouldn't have made the 16 miles home. Had to use the number 1 setting for quite a bit. I switched to that when I was halfway home from the place where Nikki had her appointment, and still only just snuck home with 3 miles range on the display. Anyway, that's my experience of the 500-mile service. Still very pleased with the bike and looking forward to getting back on it and going to work on it tomorrow. Well, that's all for now. If you enjoyed it, press like, subscribe if you want to see some more, and ring the bell to be notified when we upload something new.